Welcome to the 528th episode of the Jami Dulaney Plant-Based Wellness Podcast. My name is Jami Dulaney, and I'm your host. I'm a plant-based cardiologist and endurance athlete living in Southwest Florida. Welcome, and thanks for listening. Well, last weekend I watched an ultra event that is 109 miles that goes through Italy, Switzerland, and France, not necessarily in that order. It's called the UTMB. And it's a beautiful race. No, I'm not signing up for it. I think it's beyond me, but I watched some runners that I follow and was very impressed by some of the things that I saw. And it inspired me to, again, share doing hard things that don't necessarily come easy. Sometimes we think people have it easy, but not necessarily. This week I followed a runner. Her name is Courtney DeWalter. She has set records in just about every ultra marathon that she's achieved. And she had won the UTMB last year, so she was heavily favored to win this. And people were following her all over the place and predicting, and, it was a race for second. But it didn't turn out that way. She had some issues that caused her to slow and start to falter. She went from leading the race to being passed by people, to being passed by a lot of people, to fighting for just to get into the top 10. And I don't think she even made the top 10, but if she did it, she was 10th place. But I don't believe she made the top 10. But she continued. Most people of her stature would have probably said, this is not a good day, and dropped out or saved their legs for another race, because certainly she has other races she's sponsored. She makes her money with her feet, so she may have wanted to save them, but she didn't. Despite being passed, there was video clips of her stopping to give high fives to her fans, including young girls. She's very motivational to young kids adopting the sports as well as old. And she crossed the finish line to cheers that were unbelievable. If you would have just tuned in, you would have thought that she won the race. And she came across the line not feeling well, and hand in hand with her nephew. And she had a smile on her face. And she took time to speak with people, took time to high-five kids, and was very, very gracious. And I think it shows a lot, especially in today's atmospheres, for somebody that, it's not going your way, to continue to strive on. And when she was asked, were you going to continue or not? And she said, well, it's a beautiful course. I wanted to make my way to the finish, because she knew what would be waiting for her, even though it wasn't a first place finish. Her fans were so happy to see her. The other person was a woman named Lucy Bartholomew, who's had a tough time and injuries, and was able to put together a race through very hard conditions and make it into the top 10. And she's also plant-based, so it was really nice to see her go through the struggle and come out on top for a change. To me, ultra marathoning represents a lot of life in general, the struggles and doing hard things. And whether it is adopting a plant-based diet, losing weight, living independently, keep going outside and doing things despite having aches or pains, I think that we can learn from others no matter what their age is. There's a lot of reaching for hacks and reaching for easy today, whether it's doing your homework or meal prep or lack thereof, going out to dinner, buying prepared foods, ordering out, having it delivered, doing medication hacks versus doing exercise, doing the bare minimum when you go to the gym or whatever. What's the least you can get by for? As opposed to what can I do to make it a little bit more difficult? I've rarely seen any of these hacks make people's lives better. It doesn't usually even make it the same. There is a gradual deterioration instead of improvement. And I think it's important to do some things that, aren't quite as convenient as they could be today. small instances, on podcasting. A lot of people have AI produce it, and they read their notes from AI when they're doing a podcast. I still use an old-fashioned legal pad and write it down. I think it's important to write. Kids aren't learning to write in school. It's part of your brain coordination. And as we get older, our handwriting deteriorates. Doctors notoriously have poor handwriting. I'm left-handed, so left-handers tend to have more poor handwriting than right-handers. I can give you some reasons, mainly because the notebooks are aimed in the wrong direction. But nevertheless, I think it's important to keep those skills up. It helps with neuroplasticity. It helps to keep your brain and your mind together. I know when I write something down, I learn it. When I read something, I write. If I read a book, I write down in the margins of the book. I take notes because it helps me to remember what I have written. And I think it's very important, again, to keep these pathways open. Even if it's chopping vegetables, it's, again, a hand-eye coordination, a thought process when you make a menu and shop for the ingredients and then come home and prepare it. It's a mental task that is actually very, very helpful. Not to mention, you know what the ingredients are and how they are going to affect you. Some people don't bother to read labels. The more fresh produce you buy, the less labels you have to remember. I learned something this week. There's a product out there called Bird's Eye fire-roasted vegetables. And I was asked, are these good or bad? And I had never looked at them because most of the time if I buy any frozen vegetables, it's just plain old organic frozen vegetables. I never go to the ones because most of the sauces aren't plant-based and a lot of them have oil in it. And sure enough, when we looked at how they make fire-roasted Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and various other vegetables, they use soybean oil. And you know for a fact that soybean oil was a genetically modified soybean product. So people that are afraid of soy don't notice when they buy products that have soybean oil in them that they're getting a genetically modified soybean in that product. So, they may pat themselves on the back for eating animal products that are grass-fed and then turn around and eat a genetically modified soybean oil product on something. So you got to watch, even in the frozen vegetables section, that, again, stick with the things that are just the vegetable. When there are hacks that put those sauces in, typically there's something in there that you don't like. One thing that people don't notice is that if you look at calories per serving and then how the nutrition label reads it, it reads by weight, so fat grams, not calories from fat. So you have to actually do a little bit of a calculation to know what percentage of that food is from fat. So there may be a bunch of vegetables, but there may also be a lot more oil. And when you do 5 grams of fat times 9 calories of fat, that's 45 grams of, 9 calories per gram, if I didn't say that right. 9 times 5 would be 45. So 45 calories in that serving would be from fat. If there were 100 calories in the serving, it'd be 45% fat. If there were less than 100, it even goes up. So you can do quick math, which is also good for your neuroplasticity, and look at those things. Sometimes if the serving size is so small, they can call it fat-free, and then you have to look at the ingredients to see if there's fat in there as well. I have seen patients deteriorate when they move into a luxury senior apartment where all their meals are made for them. They no longer have to think about planning their meals. They no longer have to go get their groceries, walk into the grocery store, walk out of the grocery store, put them away, make a menu, make the dish, serve it, wash the dishes, and so forth. It seems like a lot to do, but if you're retired and that's all you're doing as far as activity level, if you give that up, you can really see a marked decline in people. And I've seen people's ability to walk around decline because they're not doing just those extra few steps a day. In the running world, when we train, sometimes it's just time on your feet. So if you do a long run, sometimes it doesn't matter how fast you're running, just the fact that you've been on your feet for that long. So if you're going to run for a marathon, and it's going to take you 6 hours on race day or 5 hours on race day, you better be able to stand up that long. It's not that different from translating it to living independently. Time on your feet. Some people say, oh, I went to the gym, or I walked 20 minutes, or I walked a mile, and then it's okay to sit inside for the rest of the day. Not really, because if you start to add up that sit time, it's so much greater. And there have been some studies that look at an hour or half hour followed by sitting, and increased TV consumption is not protective. So don't pat yourself on the back so quickly if all you do is that 20-minute walk a day. When I first started running marathons, I didn't have a coach. I bought a book, and I followed the instructions on the book and made it through the marathon. And then I bought more books, and they had different plans, and talked to other people and ran with other people, and pretty much just did my own workout. It was great because all I needed to do was my only goal was to finish the marathon and maybe do better than I did before, aim for a specific time, but certainly not aiming to win it. It was the thrill of running the marathon and finishing it and feeling good afterwards. When I started running trail marathons, at first we thought this might be a little easier because you're running on softer surfaces, but didn't take into account that we're running on soft, uneven surfaces, so that took a little bit of getting used to, and still getting used to. You also have to follow where you're going and follow a marker. So you have to be careful of the turns that you have to make, and watching for the flags. And I've messed that up too. And not pay attention to where I was going. So that's a lesson that people learn. And then I think often have to relearn over the years. So probably will have to relearn it on occasion. But after you've done it once in a race, you're pretty much watching for those little markers. You also have to watch where you put your feet, different terrain. So when I started training for Leadville, I decided to hire a coach to give me some workouts to help me out, to push me out of my comfort zone. And he did. He prescribed some speed workouts and some tempo workouts and some different things, and pushed me out of my comfort zone. But I also believe that he was a little bit... he didn't want to push me too far out of my comfort zone, because maybe I was older, and what I potentially could do, and long distance type coaching, wasn't really sure. So I did get out of my comfort zone, and I got faster, and now I've moved on and hired a new coach. And this coach has even taken me more out of my comfort zone. She's an older athlete, and she coaches older athletes, some very successful older athletes. And she's not really holding back as far as pushing me out of my comfort zone from the get-go. And I have to, there's a little trepidation about, am I going to be able to do some of these workouts and push myself outside the comfort zone? But in the end, it makes you feel good once you've accomplished those things. Troubleshooting makes us better, whether it's nutrition or heat management, or figuring how to figure out a recipe that's not plant-based and making it plant-based, and figuring out the macronutrients of a meal. Outside of your comfort zone is always a little bit better, and we can always do a little bit more than we think we can. But in my practice, as in life, I have the doers, the people that really embrace getting outside their comfort zone, and then I have people that it really bothered by getting out of their comfort zone. And even things as mild as getting a little bit more sun exposure is frightening to some people, or perhaps so much out of their comfort zone, or takes more time than they want to give. But turns out there's a lot of diseases associated with not getting enough sunshine. Dermatologists and traditional dermatologists and traditional ophthalmologists will say stay out of the sun. It causes skin cancer, cataracts, retinal problems. But if you just kind of think about it a little bit, it doesn't make that much sense. Sunglasses have been around for a long time. You can even go to the service station or the drugstore, any place, and you'll see a rack of sunglasses that have UV protection on them. And almost everybody owns a pair of sunglasses. And almost everybody in Florida has sunglasses on, and it's really annoying if they wear the sunglasses in, because sometimes they're so afraid of even indoor LED light that they wear the sunglasses. But we've never cured cataracts with sunglasses. The incidence is not going down. If anything, it's going up. If anything, it's happening in younger people. Is it because younger people aren't wearing sunglasses? Not true. I even see children with sunglasses on. So sunglasses aren't curing cataracts and curing retinal diseases. They're not making our immune system better. And certainly skin cancer has not gone away with the advent of sunscreens and covering up and not going out in the sun. But what we have got is a whole host of people with vascular disease, with thyroid disease, with frail skin, with immune dysfunction and autoimmune diseases. And all of those may be related to sun or lack thereof. Somebody's got to eat plants. So even if you don't eat a plant-based diet, the animal that you eat had to eat the plants. If there's not sunlight, there's not going to be photosynthesis or oxygen production or plants. And so we can't survive without sun, at least seeing the plants. Therefore, sun is vital, and I don't believe there's a problem or we should avoid something as natural as the sun. So there's many ways to get sunshine. That could be morning and evening, or is even the best times. But going out without sunglasses is a starter. If you have a sun roof, open that up as well. If you can just take a walk, no sunscreen, let your arms, legs face out into the sun. It's getting harder for the people in northern climates. Sun's starting to go in. It's becoming more cloudy, but you might want to visit us in Florida, get some sunshine this winter. But even cloudless days have so much more light from sunlight than inside lights. If you look at the lux, which is a measure of the photons or amount of light, it's thousands of fold higher even in the cloudy day versus out. And we have the full spectrum of radiation outside, including near-red radiation when we go outside. Inside, we have blue light, and we have this LED lights and these lights from our computer that actually block some of these vital pathways to improving our immune system. So you can see how somebody that has an office job that's in front of a computer screen, that finishes work and goes to the gym, that never sees the light of day, cannot be that healthy. It's kind of funny when bodybuilders get spray tans or use tanning beds because they don't see the light of day. So how could they be entirely healthy? There was actually a Norwegian study done that looked at and actually randomized people into staying inside with the curtains drawn versus outside, some sun exposure, and they did blood draws for things like tumor necrosis factor and alpha interferon, which are associated with increased risk of cancer and inflammation. They looked at cortisol levels, vitamin D, then they did questionnaires for sleep. They measured melatonin levels in the urine and saliva. And what they found was that people that had sun exposure, much better vitamin D levels, decreased tumor necrosis factor, decreased interferon associated with cancer, improved melatonin, decreased cortisol, even decreased blood pressure. Did I mention going outside is free? Did I mention if you go outside in the heat or humidity like we have here in Florida, it's a free sauna, and you actually can get rid of heavy metals? So how do we motivate people to do just simple things like go out and get more sun, take a walk? In our practice, we encourage people to check in with us as accountability type partners. But the reality of it is most people have to be motivated before that works anyway. Some people are motivated by crazy things and other people aren't. And I'm not sure exactly why that is. I think it has something to do with, do you really want it or not? You like it, but do you really want it or not? And what are you willing to give up to have that certain thing? I'm motivated by crazy things. I love to learn. But this week I was motivated by a crazy thing. I saw there's a guy and his dad that I follow on Instagram that do hard things, and the son, who's in his 20s, said, world record for the most number of pull-ups ever done in a day. Don't ask me how many there were. There were a lot. He certainly looks like there was a lot. He did a lot. But he also ran a marathon in just over under 3 hours, significantly under 3 hours. I think it was 2 hours and 45 minutes, which was really fast if you don't run, in blue jeans. And that came up because of, some of the things he uses for blisters, like salty britches that I use. But nevertheless, he ran it in blue jeans. Now he's actually training for a marathon to run under and to qualify for the Olympic trials. He's not going to wear blue jeans this time. But crazy things like that, because he is an ordinary person that is just working hard to achieve what he is. And to me, that is actually very, very motivating. So nothing special, no special upbringing, or, it wasn't a track athlete or anything, just hard work. And to me, that's very motivating. When I see people do things that put their head to the grindstone, and I'm going to try this, I think it's very motivating. Next week, I'm going to have on a finisher of the Western States that's over 70. And he's also a physician, and I think I find that very, very motivating and inspirational. So I think that you got to draw inspiration where you can get inspiration from. And I like to look at the big picture of who's done well over time and observe, and what are they doing. I don't think I have to reinvent the wheel, but I want to learn from other people and be motivated by them. And it seems like doing hard things is very rewarding. I hired a mind coach, is what I call her, mindfulness for Leadville, to help me get in a good place and have a positive mental attitude when going through rough patches. But the reality of it is, if you're not ready, your mindset may not, get you through to the end. And I was lacking some physical capabilities that even troubleshooting just didn't get me where I was going. So it doesn't guarantee success necessarily, but it certainly lets you troubleshoot and continue to learn from whatever it is you're doing. I learned a lot from Leadville. I'm going to apply it. I have a plan for the future. I still enjoy what I'm doing. And I believe good things are coming from it. But you have to believe that something's possible before you try it to some degree. I think if you don't think it's possible, there's a little chance that it's ever going to really amount, or you're really ever going to pull it off. But desiring something, like desiring to be healthy and really wanting it, can be two different things, especially when everybody around you is going out to dinner and, overweight and doing all the different things that you would have to give up. It makes it very, very difficult. So I think it's very important that you start to believe in the process. You believe that it works, and you believe in the process of how you're going to get there, and have some plan of what you're going to do, whether it's menu planning your exercise, documenting it, and sticking with the plan. I have people that are going to meet and go walk on a weekly basis, and something comes up because there's no real end plan. There's no real, it's if it's convenient. And most of the time doing hard things is not convenient. So when it's not convenient, people rarely pull it off. When people come to the practice and they want to get better, we have a great time, and them learning and trying new things. But if people come because they have a bad blood test or bad test result, and they're not really sure if any of this really works or how much they have to do, it's much more of a struggle for them. So a little bit of skin in the game really does help. But I can tell you, the people in my practice that get out and exercise, see the light of the day, keep a normal body mass index, they're doing really, really well into late into their 80s. So that all of this is possible, but it has taken some effort with the people. And I have some 80-year-olds that go out to dinner with their friends, and their friends aren't doing any of the things that they're doing, but they stick with their plant-based diet, and they stick with their morning routine and walking and exercise, and they're doing quite well. I doubt whether the Blue Zone people wore sunglasses and stayed inside to exercise, and I know that they don't. They live in mountainous areas. They go outside and exercise. They have gardens. They do things by hand. They don't wear sunglasses or sunscreen. They make their own food. So if it works for them, it'll work for you. We are going out to do a night run this weekend, just a 13-mile night run, which should be fun, training on trail. And there's a potluck afterwards. And it's not a vegan potluck, but it's bring your favorite dish to share. And so I'm going to take some hummus and some tabbouleh. I'll make with bulgur wheat. I think a pasta salad. When I make a pasta salad, I put peas as well as chickpeas, multicolored peppers, artichokes, olives, and I use a dressing with relish and mustard. So it keeps if it's sitting out not all evening, but in a cooler, then take out. So you don't have to worry about dairy-based things or mayo-based things going bad, which obviously I don't use anyway. Tabbouleh you can make with typically tabbouleh. If you're not familiar, it's parsley, lettuce, tomato, cucumber, and then you can use a grain, whether you use bulgur wheat or barley. This week I made some barley, and I think I'll make it again for the tabbouleh. It's good texture if you haven't had it. Growing up, occasionally there would be a beef barley soup somewhere, and that was about all that you would see of barley. It's just not a grain people think of. Sometimes that can help you if you're getting tired of rice and you're trying to avoid pastas. People use quinoa. Quinoa is a complete protein that has all the same percentage of amino acids, essential amino acids that animal muscle does. But barley is also a really good grain. It's very high in fiber. It's high in manganese and magnesium and niacin. It has a lot of antioxidants in it. Beta-glucans are associated with a decrease in cholesterol because they bind bile acids, and then we have to make cholesterol. So it's a healthy thing that I'll bring to share with the other runners. Whether they eat it or not doesn't matter, but I'll have something to eat after the 13-mile run. When we talk about cholesterol, people think statins right up front on how to have it go down. And sometimes people come and they say, well, I have a family history of high cholesterol. My doctor says I make too much. But if you didn't make too much at 30, why are you making too much at 60 or 70 or 80? And it's really not that you're making too much cholesterol, it's that you're probably not using it. And like I said with the previous example, and if you use up bile acids, you have to make more. If you're not using up the bile acids, you don't need as many. If your cholesterol is used to make myelin, which is kind of the rubber coating over nerves, so if you're having deterioration and you're not making myelin, then you may not be using the cholesterol. Cholesterol is used to make sex hormones, so for growth. And so if you're not doing strength training or muscle work, you may not need as many of the hormones, so you're not using as much cholesterol. Cholesterol is also used in cell wall repair and in the process of vitamin D3. So we get sunlight, we get vitamin back to the sun. Turns on vitamin D3 in our skin. It's synthesized to cholecalciferol, and cholesterol is used in that process with UV radiation to perform, again, ultimately generate the active form of vitamin D. Vitamin D has over 1,400 metabolites that alter protein function and affect our genes and, again, our immune system, as well as electron transport in the mitochondria. You see where all this is going? Mitochondria health, using cholesterol instead of letting it build up, getting some sun to activate all these different processes. So improved immune function, programming of T and B cells with, again, this light and vitamin D production. So rather than reaching for a medicine or a quick hack, perhaps we just need to go back and do some simple things like going out and getting some sun, going for a walk, tending to our own garden, doing our own yard work, making our own food, getting our own groceries. You might be surprised at what your cholesterol does. So I hope that some of this have spurred a little inspiration. I hope that you can find inspiration in this podcast, and perhaps you have people that you follow for inspiration. I think it's really good to look at somebody that they're doing well and say, this is how I want to be, as opposed to, well, I'm better than that guy. I think it's a much better way to look at things. And we can all do better. And I think that leading by example is much better than trying to tell somebody else what to do or try to get somebody else to go along with you and use them as a reason why it's not working. So if you'd like to have some accountability or have some help with getting started, please go over to our website at drdulaney.com, DOCTORDULANEY, and check out what we have to offer. We'd love to help you. You can email me at Jami, Jami, at drdulaney.com with questions. Love to hear from you. Thanks always for listening, and go get some vitamin D from the sun.